Hugh O'Brien, named the worst people in movie stars history, Hugh O'Brien was born Charles Cramp on April 19, 1925, and he grew up in Rochester, New York. A family that valued education and order service. He had planned to do at first follow in the footsteps of his father in the medical area and even signed up at the University of Cincinnati, but fate had other plans, and after beginning to serve in the U.S. Marine Corps he did a great job in World War II and became one of the youngest drill teachers in the history of the Corps. His Army service changed him personality and gave him a sense of duty and authority that would later a big part of his life outside of getting a chance in Hollywood after the war. Meeting the well-known actress and Ida Lupino, the director, took him to his good looks in the show business, strong presence and a deep resonance voice made him a good fit for. He began getting roles in Hollywood's golden age. Small parts in movies in the late 1940s and early 1950s, and it didn't last long before he became famous. His big break came in 1955, when he was cast as the famous backwoods lawman Wyatt Hisp in the famous TV show The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp. O'Brien gave Earp a serious look, morals and trust, worthiness that rang true for people all over America. The show had 6 great years. He became well known because of this. An important figure in Western TV and one of the most respected and long-lasting in the genre. Names outside of movies. Hugh O'Brien's their contributions to society went beyond a lot of teaching and humanitarian work. A visit with Dr. Albert moved him. Schweitzer in Africa in 1958, O'Brien went back to the United U.S. States, moved to make a change, and he began the Hugh O'Brien Youth in 1958. Leadership Group, which has been around since, giving over 500,000 young people power everywhere in the world to work. There were Hobie workshops for ethical leaders. Every year, people all over the world help high school sophomores learn how to be leaders, abilities to think critically, and a promise to do community work. O'Brien thought this was his best work. Accomplishment, and he stayed involved, been a part of the group for decades, often going to workshops and personally supporting kids. As the actress, O'Brien had a successful career. Lasted more than 50 years, he in a lot of different movies and television shows, such as 10 Little Indian Twins, The Shootist, and many others. Guest parts on well-known shows like She Wrote About Murder in Fantasy Island and The Love Boat. He was a respectable person to every part, and even though he was most known for his flexibility in westerns allowed him to change with the times. In 2005, he worked in the theater business. He even played Wyatt Earp again in I Saw the Movie. Wyatt Earp returned to Tombstone, a sign of his strong relationship to the famous character. In 1969, a big personal event and a court case happened in the life of Hugh O'Brien when he was locked up to court by photographer Adina Etkuz, who sued him and won for child support. There was a court case in Los Angeles. Her son Hugh Donald at the center. Cramp, whose name was a play on O'Brien's birth last name Crampa. Edith said that the actress and she met in 1951, early in the course of his Hollywood job that ran at the same time as his big break when he played Wyatt Earp in to watch the famous TV show The Life and the Legend of Wyatt Earp. That at the time, court records and stories. Edith said that a love story, a connection had grown between the two, things that led to the birth of her son. What the court said in her favor meant that there was enough proof or a legal reason to back up, even though the details of the court's thinking about and if paternity was clearly proven through testing are still unclear. No matter how the case turned out, O'Brien denying having children over and over his whole life, this stance was spelled out in his law trust, a paper that he signed himself and kept up to date on that trust. In his later years he said very clearly, "I do not have any kids, alive or dead." The wording used in the report was methodical and firm, and O'Brien went so far as to name people who had earlier claimed to be the father charges against him, including Hugh Donald. Crampa is one of them. We the People legal giving up of paternity despite a previous court decision brings up concerns about what O'Brien really thinks and feels, ties with other people, and the how complicated family and fame can be, whether his denial was because he didn't have enough information of biological and mental certainty, concerns about distance or image still a question of. Interesting rumors say that Etka's wasn't she made her claim on her own over the course of at least 4 times in his life. People have openly or legally claimed they knew Hugh O'Brien was their real father. These claims came up at different things that get a lot of media attention because of O'Brien's public image and fame. The presence of more than one claim makes the story of even more complicated. Personal life of O'Brien and kids. Many questions about his love life, thoughts on family, and what he wants for privacy was a part of all of these claims. Despite this, O'Brien stayed firm in his claims, never admitting that the father of any child in a different and more well-known part of his life outside of work. O'Brien got married for the first and only time was in 2006, when he was 81 years old. He married Virginia Barber, a teacher born around 1952, making her almost 30 years his junior. The couple had kept 18 years of being together before their wedding had even started, having been together since the late 1980s. Shocked some people in Hollywood given O'Brien's long-standing picture as a bachelor, but it was also a time of personal happiness and friendship in his life. In their later years, the wedding was held at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California, is a famous and a place that is important because it was the final resting place of many Hollywood stars. According to legends, the event was led by Father Robert Schuller, the well-known televangelist and creator of the Crystal Cathedral, even more putting the focus on how important and Barber had a sacred tone to the event. Been married before and brought with she had a background in the marriage schooling that went along with O'Brien's own lifelong support for young people leadership and brain growth. She stayed out of the spotlight for the most part. Was often seen with O'Brien, though after he turned 80, at public events after the service. Instead of choosing to have a standard honeymoon where the couple went on their trip, they went to Oxford University in England. Taken part in school study and philosophical study is an unusual but very important way to celebrate. They came together for this intellectual vacation. Showed how O'Brien felt about the idea that a busy mind is just as important as and that he was to have a busy body. Lived his whole life by it. Was in line with his work in starting the foundation for Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership. CHOBE is a group that works to getting people to think critically and getting young people to learn how to be leaders. The wedding in Oxford not only marked the start of their marriage but also brought out the couple's shared values in school, intellectual interest and lifelong learning. It was a good fit. The end of a long-standing bond based on respect for each other and a desire to keep growing as a person, traits that were like the legacy O'Brien wanted to leave behind, not only like a TV star but also like a dedicated supporter of young people and getting an education in a moment of late in life. Hugh O'Brien was known for being calm and looking for justice. Police officer Wyatt Earp is said to have opened up about the really bad side of Hollywood in an out-of-the-scope talk with a close friend. While O'Brien was usually he is polite and known for his loyalty to education for kids and humanitarian work. What caused this unusual rage showed a few people had ever seen this side of him. Angry, worn out, and bluntly honest about the people he thought were responsible, more evil than good in Hollywood. This story says that he named names, in particular those he thought were being one of the worst stars in Hollywood history. His list includes well-known figures, shocked and amused comedic legends. Interesting, Henry Fonda is often seen as the perfect American man of right and wrong in movies like The O'Brien's list included The Grapes of Wrath, because of how he acts on screen, but said to be because of a cold controlling what's going on behind the scenes. O'Brien said they thought Fonda had a cruel sense of privilege and looked down on those below him with contempt. O'Brien is said to have said, "There was no warmth," telling Crosby he was Stone Bing the crooner whose voice helped figure out it was Christmas next. O'Brien wasn't the only one who didn't like it. Soon after, Crosby's own kids came forward with stories of bodily and mental abuse. O'Brien thought Crosby was laughing. The man behind the Irish charm could be very mean to those closest to them. To him, you can't get out of what you was said to have done to your kids by Errol. Captain Jack Flynn, the brave hero of Blood and the story of Robin Hood, was seen by O'Brien as a symbol of the decadent worst of Hollywood, well known for drinking and sleeping with women. Getting in trouble with the law a lot is Flynn's behavior in real life, especially his when people stopped dating young girls. O'Brien was angry, the devil in a cape, he joked one time. Mark Rooney was on the list for his actions behind the scenes that O'Brien seen as erratic and rude and selfish. Even though Rooney's funny genius and has been in business for a long time were clear, O'Brien said recalled times when Rooney put them down youngsters on the cast and crew. He was 5 feet 2 inches and thought he was God, O'Brien said. Spencer Tracy laughed. One of the most artists of his time who got good reviews by going on O'Brien's, she shocked a lot of people. List, but most people knew Tracy as an actor who is very serious and has a terrible soul. That O'Brien pointed to was Tracy's having a long fling with Katharine Hepburn, a time when he never got split his wife, and says he has problems with he was 2 people at once, drunk and angry. You saw on TV and the other you hoped you never met, O'Brien is said to have said. Kirk Douglas, a mid-century giant, said O'Brien said that the movie was a bully in the body of a great man. Douglas had a known for having a lot of drive and brutal power that went all the way to talking to people and doing business. O'Brien was said to have been particularly upset by long-lasting speculation that Douglas might be involved in the rape of Natalie, a young actress. Would a myth that has never been proven but keeps going around in the dark hallways of Hollywood. Burt Lancaster, who is another lean hero of it, was said that the time after the war was interesting and charming, but also it was said that politician O'Brien didn't like Lancaster's tendency to take over scenes both on and off camera, and said Burt's eyes were mean in a way that made working with him tough. Taylor was one of the most famous women from the past for many. Making O'Brien's list was a surprise. He said she used her fame and beauty to get what she wanted. Men and studio as tools that control them to get what she wanted. She broke a lot of people, and he is said to have thought it was exciting. Said O'Brien may have also seen her having many marriages and fights as signs of more poisonous. Natalie Wood, on the other hand, was seen by many see O'Brien as a sad figure, but supposedly had her because of a known behind the scenes for intense pride and because he didn't see her as a victim of abuse, but as someone who used being weak as a weapon. Whether this point of view came from a personal complaint or rumor still exists. Jerry Lewis, who is known for his crazy O'Brien, said that he had a comic side to be the most rude clown in the show. He pointed to Lewis's bad image for being rude and tough to work with of team members and harassing them emotionally to the people close to him. His kindness work couldn't fix the damage O'Brien did. Gig Young, the Oscar-winning actor whose charm hid a deep-seated troubled life outside of work, made O'Brien's list not only because of his well-known has problems with sadness and alcoholism, but also because of the terrible murder who killed himself and took his own life. He smiled like a gentleman as he talked about his 5th wife. O'Brien said they died like monsters. Robert Blake was known for Beretta and the case where his 2nd wife was killed. Not surprisingly, Bonnie Lee Bockley made the list. O'Brien thought was proof of Blake act in a way that can eat away at your soul even before the murder charges. Blake was known for being violent and unpredictable. He lived, not just played killers. Like the one O'Brien is said to have seen. Harvey Korman was the funny friend on that Carol Burnett show. Looked like it was from place until O'Brien told them that behind the scenes, Korman was known for he had an ego as big as his face. Accused Korman of being spiteful and not interested in writing or junior cast members. He laughed the most at his own. O'Brien once said that cruelty. It was Peter Sayers who made me laugh so hard. The Pink Panther movies and Dr. Love was what O'Brien called it. Brilliant and disgusting all at the same time. It was said that Byers abused his wives. People he worked with, and was known for his mood swings often, and he used faces as masks to trick people. O'Brien said that Orson Welles was a genius. Behind Citizen Kane was probably the most interesting person on the list. As O'Brien said they thought Welles was brilliant, but thought that his pride and gluttony and the desire to hurt others to understand that his ideas were wrong. He burned everyone who helped him get up. O'Brien said that Milton Berle was Mr. Television. As for himself, O'Brien named him as the worst heart and the dirtiest mouth, well known in Hollywood for his wild parties and infamous Lim. Berle was also said to be mean to other people. Comics are dishonest and a serial cheater. He could make you laugh while they stabbed you in the back, O'Brien said. Finally, Wallace Beer was an early movie star, had been called a thug by O'Brien in a It was known that Tuxedo Beer was aggressive. Protests were thought to be connected to the comic Ted Healy died and for he was poisonous because he was beating his wife. Simple O'Brien is said to have said, "O'Brien, a man who is dedicated to order and control, may have just not been able to handle people who abused fame, power, or people." The well-known American Hugh O'Brien, entertainer best known for his famous part as Lawman Wyatt Earp in the long-running The TV show The Life and Legend of In Peace, Wyatt Earp died at his home. This house in Beverly Hills, California, on September 5, 2016, at the age of 91, his death was the end of a very interesting over 6 decades of life and work, decades in which he not only left effects that will last on the fun industry, but it also made a big helps young people become leaders, and through his charitable work, he was able to educate. O'Brien's beautiful Beverly Hills, the place where he spent his last days, had long been a sign of his lasting achievement and fame in Hollywood. Filled with memories of a life lived with meaning from his long acting career, his job to his charitable work, O'Brien died of natural causes, which to an end a part of Hollywood past that started in the heyday of TV for a long time, and living to the age of 91 showed not only physical stamina but a strong desire to learn about life and help others. His death was announced, which led to a flood of messages from fans, friends and people who took part in his group for young people, the Hugh O'Brien. The Youth Leadership Foundation has a job that he set up in 1958 to encourage young people, getting people to lead and make a change in their communities. Legacy lives on not only through memorable acts on the big screen, keep entertaining and motivating people, crowds, but also through the tens of he changed thousands of lives with his commitment to teaching about public participation and building leadership.